At the Howard Library, we've been greatly favoured by a number of sponsors since we began. Many of you are aware that Raytheon Australia has been a generous contributor to the work that we've done, particularly in the galleries. And if you've not visited the Howard Library at Old Parliament House, you'll see there are two areas for which we have a great and enduring debt to Raytheon. And I do thank Jerry Wheeler, a friend from Raytheon, is here today, for that goodwill. It's an encouragement to know that others think the work that you are doing is worthwhile. Our particular sponsor for this gathering is the consultancy firm A.T. Kearney. Andrew Kearney, who is the founder of the consultancy, died the month that I was born. There's no connection between the two events. But can I say that it prompted me to find out about Andrew Kearney, the consultancy that he established, and the work that it seeks to do. Rob Holt is speaking on behalf of A.T. Kearney today, our sponsor. He's a friend of mine. The name Holt is not without its significance if you'd care to talk to him about it at afternoon tea. He's a friend, a colleague, but also someone whose advice I'd readily take. Please welcome Rob Holt.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honour to speak at this fantastic event. I really appreciate it. I know that the sponsor's message is probably not the highlight of the agenda, so I'll try and keep it as enjoyable as I can. So yes, Tom is we consider him part of the family because, of course, he wrote the definitive biography on my grandfather, Harold Holt, and having been born just after Harold's death, it's a hugely important personal event for me to be able to read with the rigour of detail and research that Professor Frame has put into the book, and so I'm personally very grateful to him for that. Very briefly, A.T. Kearney's been is 90 years old, 25 years in Australia. This year we have Craig Pandy has opened our Canberra office. Craig is a former senior civil servant in Defence, former serviceman, and a hugely respected colleague in the work of transformation. We have 44 offices around the world, about $1.5 billion of work, and we specialise in transformation. For example, we help the US government procure about $180 billion worth of military equipment. We're publicly on record of saving over tens of billions of dollars for the US taxpayer. We would love to do the same here in Australia. And so who was Andrew Kearney? Was an interesting chap. He was the first managing partner of McKinsey, and he and James McKinsey fell out because McKinsey said our job is to form strategy and to do analysis, and Tom Kearney said no, our job is to do implementation as well. So as such, we've continued with that line for many years. We've worked for nearly all the ASX top 50, currently serving about 40% of the ASX top 40. But I'll end my A.T. Kearney monologue there because that's not why you're here today. But maybe I'll just give you a bit of my own John Howard retrospective. In the crucial election of 1998, I'd volunteered to hand out how to vote cards. I was living in Toorak at the time, which is a suburb of my birth. The Liberal Party decided there were too many volunteers in Toorak, and could I please go out to Sunshine and hand out how to vote cards? I was then dating a beautiful young lady who is now my wife, and somehow convinced her to come out to Sunshine. And I put on a flannel shirt so that I wouldn't be kicked around too much by the locals. Yeah, wasn't helped when the young Liberals would turn up in a Mercedes-Benz and hand out things in glasses of tonic water in their Gucci loafers. Didn't fix the image. And after a couple of hours of handing out, or trying to hand out how to vote cards, they weren't very popular in Sunshine. And for those who don't know Victoria, there's various suburbs such as Sunshine, Broadmeadows, Moonee Ponds. The names are more poetic than the reality of the suburbs. And after about 2 hours of handing out vote cards, a Russian lady who didn't speak English came up to my wife, sort of questioned her as to what she was handing out. She turned out the hand-held vote card and pointed to a picture of Mr. Howard, at which time she was spat on by this Russian lady. I decided that there was a sudden fall in my personal polling in a relationship, and hate to say it, Mr. Howard, and I apologise to you publicly that I decided to concede the seat of Fraser at that moment and take my wife back to Toorak for an early lunch. But it takes all sorts to do that. And I'd just like to extend a huge thank you to Professor Frame and the University of New South Wales and Howard Library for inviting us to sponsor this very important event. Having a political heritage, I think sometimes in Australia we could learn a thing or two from our American brethren in exploring and understanding the history of the various leaders that served us with great purpose. And so thank you very much.